Whispers ASMR for another true crime video. Couple new things tonight. I have a new light, so we're gonna see if I look sunburned halfway through this video. And I also got out the fluffy mic cover. I have tried to use this on Patreon a couple of times, and it wasn't as successful as I would like, but I've turned the gain up. I've played with the settings a little, so hopefully it's okay. It's not something I'm going to be doing all the time, so don't worry. I have just found myself really gravitating towards videos with the mic flipping, pulling, and things like that. I also did like a mic brushing video on Patreon the other day, and they really seemed to like that, so that might appear later on the channel. Anyway, I have a missing persons case for you tonight, and I'm just gonna jump right in after all that rambling. This is the case of Nancy Moyer. Nancy Moyer may have been physically small. She was only 5 feet tall, and she weighed at 115 pounds. But Nancy had a big personality. Her sister Sharon said Nancy was a social butterfly, that she was always in a good mood. The 36-year-old mother of 2 lived in a small community in Tenino, Washington. She held a stable job at the nearby Department of Ecology. She was surrounded by a supportive family and loving friends. And when she went missing, her former husband said, "This kind of stuff just doesn't happen to normal, everyday families." So although Nancy had separated from Bill 2 years earlier, the two of them remained on good terms, and they shared custody of their daughters, Sam and Amanda. Bill said, "Whether you're separated or together, you're still a family. And Nancy and I wanted the best for them." So Bill had the girls on the weekends, and Nancy took care of them during the week. She never missed a pickup or a drop-off. The Sunday of March 8th, 2009 was like any other for the Moyers. Bill had brought their 2 daughters back home to Nancy's house, expecting his former wife to be there waiting. But when he arrived, Nancy was nowhere to be found. And at first, Bill really didn't seem like there was any immediate cause for concern. Although, as I researched this, the facts that I found were there was no immediate cause for concern, except the front door was ajar and the lights were on. But Bill said, well, nothing really seemed out of place at all. Nancy was known to take walks in the neighborhood, and there was a gas station just down the road where she would go and get groceries sometimes. So Bill and their 2 daughters went inside to wait for her. But as quite a bit of time passed, Bill said he started to worry. I knew something wasn't right. It was so far out of character. Their daughter Sam, who was just 9 years old at the time of her mother's disappearance, said that she remembered she had brought home a candy called Circus Peanuts that she and her mother had both loved, and she saved the last few of them for Nancy. Bill decided that he was going to take the girls back to his house, and Sam left the bag of candy on the coffee table so they'd be there when Nancy returned. Sam said, I didn't expect her to be gone forever. After contacting several family members and coworkers, Bill learned that no one had seen or heard from Nancy since Friday, March 6th. He knew that she would never leave their girls or take off without notice, so he reported Nancy missing to the police on March 9th. Officers arrived at Nancy's home, and they found no sign of a struggle, no sign of forced entry. Her purse and keys were inside the home, and her car was parked in the driveway. A glass of red wine sat on the coffee table with another glass next to it. Detective Mickey Hamilton of the Thurston County Sheriff's Office said police fingerprinted both glasses, but no sets aside from Nancy's were identified. The glasses are currently being tested for DNA, and they are awaiting on the results. A pack of Camel cigarettes was also found in a fold-out chair on Nancy's front porch. One of the only items that Nancy's family noticed was missing was a long brown coat with a fur-type lining around the bottom that Nancy wore frequently. Investigators learned that on the evening that she vanished, Nancy had carpooled home with a coworker, dropping him off at around 4:45 p.m. Nancy then went to the store to pick up wine and food for the weekend. A shopping receipt found at her home indicated that she was at the grocery store at around 6:45 p.m. A Tenino police officer running radar near Nancy's home said he spotted her unloading her groceries between 9 and 9:30. I felt like that was a really long time to be at the grocery store, but I only shop for me and Sean. So I guess if you're shopping for 3 people, it could take 3 hours. But I felt like that was a lot. This officer said Nancy was alone, unloading her groceries. And this is the last known time of her ever being seen alive. One of Nancy's neighbors reported hearing a hurried female voice the slamming of car doors around midnight, and he had assumed that it was just Nancy and her daughters. It is believed that Nancy could have disappeared. I'm going to give you a really specific time here, between 9 and midnight, because that is when the home's heating spiked due to the front door being left open, which I didn't even know you could look at. Nancy's credit card and bank account have not been used since her disappearance, and she does not own a cell phone. Her family stated that Nancy was not dating anyone or having any personal problems at the time of her disappearance, nor were there any drug issues or a history of mental illness that could help explain her disappearance. Abandoning her daughters and family would be 100% out of character for her. She worked for 12 years as a financial analyst for the State Department of Ecology. She was described as a reliable worker by her employers, and she would always notify them if she had to miss work. Nancy and her estranged husband Bill had separated 2 years before. It was an amicable breakup, and they worked out a shared child custody agreement without involving the court system. Now, Bill did take a polygraph test regarding Nancy's disappearance, which he passed. Bill was cleared by the police as a suspect very early on in this case. They did declare her disappearance as suspicious, and they have since been investigating it as a homicide. This case really seemed to be at a standstill until the summer of 2019, when Nancy's former neighbor and coworker, a man named Eric Lee Roberts, called 911 to confess her murder. On July 9th, Eric, whose nephew had dated Nancy before she'd vanished, stated he'd killed her 10 years before, and he felt quite tired of holding it inside. He then gave the police his name and address, and Detective Hamilton responded to the call. During his interview, Eric Roberts was visibly upset. He was crying, he was clenching and unclenching his fists and wringing his hands. He claimed that he and Nancy had had a sexual relationship, and that she had attacked him, and he had just reacted. In another interview, Eric later said that he accidentally strangled Nancy with a scarf during a round of rough sex. He said that he then burned said scarf because it disgusted Nancy's remains had not been found on Eric Roberts' property. Investigators are continuing to process evidence related to Eric's original claims, and he has since been released from custody. No charges have been filed against Eric Roberts at the time that I'm telling you about this case, and he has maintained his innocence from there on out. In an interview with a podcast called Hide and Seek, which is how I learned about this case, Eric said he couldn't remember confessing to the police, and that the medication he was on may have affected his memory. Eric said he was appalled and amazed at the lack of evidence and what he was going through. Really, did you go missing? Detective Hamilton confirmed that there are suspects in this case, but they have not been publicly named or identified by the police. Nancy's daughter Sam said it was comforting, therapeutic in a way that some movement had been made on her mother's case. But for now, the Moyer family is still left searching for answers. Sam said, "Not knowing is a terrible feeling. I don't know if she's dead. I don't know if she's alive. Growing up without a mom sucks, especially when you don't know where she is." Every day of the past 10 years, the Moyers have felt Nancy's absence. Both Sam and Bill reflected on the major life moments Nancy has missed. Sam getting her driver's license, graduating from high school, going to her first dance. All things where mom is supposed to be there were taken away from them. And although Sam has struggled with her own rough patches, she stays involved with her mother's case because she wants Nancy to be found. She said, "For me to move on, I need someone to take responsibility." And she added that if she could speak to her mom one last time, she would tell her that she loved her. If you or anyone you know has any information regarding the disappearance of Nancy Moyer, please call the Thurston County Sheriff's Office at 360-786-5500. This number will also be in the description box down below this video. I don't really have any theories in this case. I see that my ring light is not keeping me from looking sunburned as well. I was gonna try to mess with it, but I can't. I have too many wires now. I almost always look at the husband, as y'all know. Oh no. Me. None of this is helping. Okay, we're doing so good. Wait, no. Wait. I can't see the buttons, I'm just pushing buttons. Forget it. This is one case where I am actually not looking at the husband. And the reason that I say that to you is she went missing on Friday evening after Bill already had their daughters. Now, that's not to say that he didn't hire someone to make her disappear. But I would find that quite strange. They were suspicious. So I have to wonder if she ran into someone at the grocery store and then invited them to her home. The two of them sat down for a drink, maybe decided to go somewhere else for another drink or a stronger drink or something, and this person belongs to that pack of cigarettes. I feel like the police mentioned the cigarettes because she didn't smoke them, and so that's why it was brought up as a piece of evidence. I think it's weird that we're still processing the DNA from the glass from 2009. But, DNA advancements happen more and more every single year. But the fact that they didn't find any fingerprints on that glass except hers also made me extremely suspicious. Like, is this person sitting there having a drink with her in her living room, with gloves on? Clearly, I think she left with someone in someone else's car. She put her coat on, she got up, she left. I do think it's odd that her purse and keys were still at the house, so maybe this person kind of forced her into their car. Not obviously loud enough to make a scene where the neighbor heard them, but the neighbor did hear like a hurried female voice. So maybe it wasn't just one person, maybe it was two people, a man and a woman, that came over and forced Nancy into their car. I honestly could go on and on with the theories in this case because I have nothing to go off of. But it is quite an interesting podcast called Hide and Seek if you are into stuff like that. Please let me know if you've listened to it already, and let me know down below what you think of this case. I just thought it was so odd. The door is ajar, there's a glass of wine, and she's just gone. And I think it's incredibly sad that she was gone for 2 whole days before anyone even noticed. We know that the first 48 hours are really critical, even more so back when technology was not as advanced as it is. You can't track her cell phone, she didn't have one. CCTV footage has come so far since 2009. I don't even know if they found footage like from the grocery store or anything like that, so I'd be curious to know that detail as well. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling now. I'm going to tell you thank you so much for being here this evening. Please let me know down below what you think of the mic brushing. I really want it to work, so I'm gonna keep trying, but it's not something I'm going to do all the time, because I know some people like it, some people don't. That's kind of one of the chances you take when you try something new on your channel.